CSIR-NCL के इस ऐतिहासिक सभागृह में और आज के इस महत्वपूर्ण अवसर पर उपस्थित आप सभी लोगों का और जो ऑनलाइन माध्यमों से जुड़े हैं उन सब का स्वागत करते हुए मुझे अपार हर्ष का अनुभव हो रहा है। CSIR-NCL की 7 दशकों से अधिक की अनवरत वैज्ञानिक शोध और तकनीकी विकास एवं अनुसंधान के माध्यम से जनसेवा की गौरवपूर्ण यात्रा में आज का दिन अत्यंत महत्वपूर्ण है। आज हमारे बीच भारत के विज्ञान प्रौद्योगिकी, पृथ्वी विज्ञान, प्रधानमंत्री कार्यालय, परमाणु ऊर्जा और अंतरिक्ष विज्ञान जैसे अत्यंत महत्वपूर्ण मंत्रालयों के यशस्वी तथा विद्वान माननीय मंत्री, CSIR के उपाध्यक्ष, सुप्रसिद्ध चिकित्साविद तथा लेखक आदरणीय डॉक्टर जितेंद्र सिंह जी हमारे मार्गदर्शन के लिए पधारे हैं। फिर से एक बार तालियों के साथ सर का स्वागत करें। मैं आग्रह करूंगा निदेशक महोदय से कि समस्त CSIR-NCL परिवार की तरफ से आदरणीय डॉक्टर सिंह का स्वागत महाराष्ट्र के सांस्कृतिक राजधानी पुणे के आन बान और शान पुनेरी पगड़ी पहना कर करें और साथ ही शॉल और परंपरागत श्रीफल प्रदान करें। आदरणीय निदेशक महोदय कृपया पुष्पगुच्छ फ्लावर बुके प्रदान करें। आदरणीय मंत्री महोदय। I will request Honorable Director Sir Sir to please deliver welcome address.
Very good afternoon to all of you here. It's so wonderful to see this auditorium so full. After many years, I've seen the seats full, and there are more people than the number of seats, so people are sitting in the aisles. It's absolutely a privilege to witness this after many years. Honorable Union Minister of State, Independent Charge of the Ministry of Science and Technology and Ministry of Earth Sciences, Dr. Jitendra Singh ji. DG CSIR, Dr. Kalai Selvi, who was unable to come in person today, but who has sent her warm greetings today to all of us. Dignitaries in the auditorium and attending the event online, and representatives of the media, my dear friends, very good afternoon and warm welcome to all of you. I would like to express my sincere gratitude on behalf of the entire NCL family, URDIP family, and the Venture Center family to the Honorable Minister, Dr. Jitendra Singh ji, for taking time out of his very busy schedule and visiting us to inaugurate the new URDIP building, the NCL pilot plant for bisphenol A, as well as to interact with all the startups in the Venture Center. The Honorable Minister also inspected India's first truly indigenous hydrogen fuel cell bus today morning, which was jointly developed by CSIR and KPIT through the NMITLI program, which is a very unique special purpose vehicle created by CSIR under the inspiring leadership of the then Prime Minister, Shri Atal Vajpayee ji. Sir, I believe that this decade of 2020-2030 is going to be a defining period in our lives and in the lives of the future generations because of the major challenges that face our country and the world, such as global warming, pollution, expensive healthcare, and over-dependence on imports from one country. In this context, sir, I believe that CSIR, the Indian industry, and the Indian startup ecosystem has a critical role to play for not just discovering new knowledge and inventing new phenomena, but also in translating the science into viable and globally competitive technologies and taking it to the markets and the society for good of all. In the COVID times, NCL, UDIP, and Venture Center demonstrated this through several innovations which made a real difference. Sir, you have had a glimpse of yesterday of many contributions from startups for the fight against COVID. At NCL, we did pioneering work in sewage surveillance, for which CSIR has just received the Golden Peacock Award. We also developed nasal swabs, which in the beginning of the COVID period were actually imported in the country, but today they are now manufactured in millions in India through a technology transfer done by NCL. We have also developed several indigenous lithium and sodium zeolite grades for oxygen concentration. We have participated in genome surveillance and detected the first Omicron case in Pune. We also developed processes for recycling PP overalls and masks. Sir, the world does not have much time left to solve difficult problems of climate change and energy transition. Time is of essence, and we need agility and alignment to achieve our goals. NCL roadmap and flagship projects in green hydrogen, CO2 utilization, circular economy, process intensification, continuous flow chemistry, biotherapeutics, biomass valorization, and agri-tech are indeed deeply focused on developing uniquely deployable technologies. UDIP's contribution to these projects provide the much needed synergy, and the Venture Center ecosystem provides us a unique lab-to-market opportunity. Sir, I hope that we have given you a brief overview of our efforts and our successes over the 2 days of your visit. I would like to take this opportunity to promise you that we will continue to work with sharp focus and strong commitment as one CSIR team on our major projects. We will make every attempt to amalgamate science and entrepreneurship, and we will partner closely with industry to scale our technologies and take them to markets. Sir, I thank you once again for your time and guidance. We look forward to your continued support in helping us build an even more efficient, digitalized CSIR, which has greater focus on delivering impactful technologies to meet industrial, societal, and strategic demands. Jai Hind, and thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Sir, CSIR-NCL has been performing world-class scientific research and cutting-edge technologies with futuristic, global, as well as grassroots level approach to serve the humanity and nation by providing innovative and sustainable solutions since its inception. Today, we are elated to have amongst us a visionary leader like you who is tirelessly and immensely contributing in shaping the new India. अभी जब लाल किले की प्राचीर से जय विज्ञान के साथ साथ जय अनुसंधान का उद्घोष भी किया गया है, तो ऐसे में आपकी हमारे बीच उपस्थिति और भी महत्वपूर्ण है। सर, हम सब के मार्गदर्शन के लिए मैं आपका आग्रह करूंगा, कृपया मार्गदर्शन करें। धन्यवाद।
धन्यवाद। Director Dr. Ashish Lele, members of the fraternity, scholars, friends. When I arrived at this hall, it appropriately seemed I am actually entering the National Cultural Laboratory. And he was very kind to say कि आपका स्वागत है भारत की कल्चर राजधानी में. The manner in which the hospitality and the welcome has been decked up, we are not used to this being members of the scientific fraternity. So it's indeed culture reflecting through science or science reflecting through culture, both mingled into one. So thank you very much. And that is what in a single sentence defines Pune: culture and science, living together and supplementing each other. And I'm not saying just for saying this, because as students of science, we have been taught not to speak without evidence. In fact, I have been suggesting this to the Ministry of Culture Affairs for quite some time, and this reoccurred to me when he was making very kind introductory remarks, that you must redo the itinerary that you have for the tourists, particularly for the education trips that are conducted by various educational institutions, the colleges, the schools. Mostly towards the month of December, they move out to places like Pune, Jaipur, and in summers they move to the places located on the hills. And for example, the itinerary is the same. This has been, I think, for the last several decades. So I was giving them an example, and I said, if a group comes to visit Delhi, you don't have to tell them to go to Red Fort or Qutub Minar or Jantar Mantar, etc., because in any case they'll go there. So why don't you ask them to go to the NPL, which was established along with the dawn of independence, I think one of the earliest laboratories. But unfortunately, this has not been picked up. I think we'll have to make an extra effort. So why not NCL, with all the good things that have been spoken about it before me, and the laboratory now being 72 years old, just 3 years younger than the independence, could also be a part of the itinerary of the visitors, which unfortunately is not. The other day when I was, because I am going around the various labs, so I was in Jammu, I said that laboratory in fact was established even before the independence by Sir Ramnath Chopra, after he superannuated from Calcutta and came over there. But I don't think even the people around there ever bother to visit the lab. They think there's some God-forsaken place, some scientists sitting in dark rooms doing their own business, which has nothing to do with the outside world. And that is also precisely what we were discussing when we sat in the boardroom, that we have to move on with and since it's a time of integration, and make others realize what stake we hold for them. We are virtually making difference in everyone's life. And particularly after Prime Minister Narendra Modi has taken over, I think science, technology, innovation is virtually entered every Indian household. For example, if you take even space technology, there was time when hardly anybody knew about it, and nobody knew where, for example, the Sriharikota is located. Rarely, when we were students, you came across a news item in some remote corner of a newspaper. Some rocket had been launched. Nobody knew where it has been launched. Nobody even knew which state this place belongs to. And when I came into this ministry soon after 26th of May 2014, of course, the space was with me, not science and technology and CSIR. There was a launching in the first week of June, and Dr. K. Radhakrishnan happened to be chairman. He also happened to be known to me as a friend. Now he's known worldwide as the father of Mangalyaan or whatever, Mangal mission. So he said, I'll tonight take you to a spot where even our scientists are prohibited from going, the launching site. Said even my staff members are not allowed. So around midnight, we went there, and he said, this is the spot. Nobody is allowed to come in. The launching is to take place at 4 o'clock or so, 4 hours. So I told him, I said, Radhe, I have made a principle for myself to try to learn one new thing every day. And what I learned today is that to reach this spot, either one should be as eminent a scientist as you are, or somehow manage to become a minister. But on a serious note, when we put this across, I said, why not open this so that people know what they are doing, so that they get motivated. And I'm glad 3 years back, Prime Minister has opened the most forbidden sector of science, the space technology, for private partnerships. And within 2 years, we have as many as 60 startups working in the latest streams of space technology, including the safe space debris. So that kind of talent and potential we were keeping deprived. So therefore, if we make this part of these venues also, as he said, part of the cultural destinations of the cultural capital of Maharashtra, they would also help in promoting the science streams and the science pursuits. But having said that, I mean, that's a different subject, then we can go on and on. But I think that is something also which requires a serious discussion. It's been a very wonderful 2 days visit over here. Dr. Ashish had been after me for almost 7-8 months now. Every time something or the other came up, sometimes the COVID happened here and it prohibited our entry into Pune. Sometimes COVID happened there and it prohibited our exit from there. So 1 year passed and then so many other things coming up midway. And then there was also once a suggestion that the bus should move to Delhi because the passengers are unable to move to Pune. So, but then they said, no, the authorization has not been obtained. So I said, no, without authorization, if we allow it to move, then it'll make a bigger news than visiting the bus. So I'm glad that today we had the opportunity of being there and seeing all the wonderful thing being done. And also in keeping with the hydrogen mission that Prime Minister announced from the ramparts, I think one more advantage that we have in the present regime of the government is that Prime Minister himself takes a deep personal interest in very futuristic scientific pursuits, which was not happening earlier. Because we have been witnesses and we have been audiences, we have listeners to the successive addresses of Independence Day made by the successive Prime Ministers. So here I can actually give you chronologically. For example, this year he spoke about deep sea mission, which is again something related to earth sciences. Now, can you ever imagine? I mean, earth sciences is one ministry. I was telling about a few years back, I told, I think Shashank was the secretary at that time, or science RO, a space scientist. So I told him, I said, can you tell me, if you do a small survey in Delhi, it'll be interesting to find out how many people in Delhi can tell you where on earth is located the Ministry of Earth Sciences. That was the kind of anonymity that they were treated with. And now they have suddenly come into focus because none less than the head of the state is talking about deep sea mission. They are launching Samundrayaan, all those things. Last year he spoke about hydrogen mission. That was, I think, 2021. 2020 he spoke about digital health. So every year, an Independence Day address, let's not forget, is considered by the entire world as a declaration of intent of the government in place. So it's not taken casually or lightly. It's well prepared after several weeks of deliberations and diligent preparation. It lays out the roadmap and the priorities of the government in place. So I think that is the advantage we have. And then before that he spoke about Gaganyaan. I think that was in 2019. The Gaganyaan would have happened actually this year, but because of COVID it got delayed. So next year we'll have the trial flights and followed by the actual Gaganyaan. So that is a huge advantage that we enjoy in this regime. And then also I think the other part has been to make it a part of our program of ease of living. Because it was again during this Prime Minister's regime, I think it was in 2015, we held a brainstorming between the scientists of the space technology and the representatives of different ministries, one by one. It went on for about 2 or 3 days, because even the ministries within the government didn't know where they could apply. For example, and similarly is the case of CSIR. You have this technology called what is that? Heli-borne. Yeah, that's from your Hyderabad thing, no? Heli-borne technology. And the Jal Shakti Ministry was looking for some technology. And they were actually trying to explore where from could they import it. And we told them, we are already having it. Then they were looking for some Israeli technology for reusing the sewage water. We told them we already installed a plant in Moti Bagh colony of Delhi, which is the colony for officers. So even within the government, and that was facilitated by the present Prime Minister. Many of the CSIR applications not known otherwise have now got to be known by the other departments, and they're making use of it. And I think the biggest changeover, the revolutionary breakthrough has come in the form of the startups. Again, it was 2015, Prime Minister spoke from Red Fort on 15th August. He said, Startup India, Stand Up India. And I tell you honestly, many people asked me that day. I said, what is this? So in India, it's something not very easily understood at that time. And just see, the policy came into being next year, the following in 2016. And within 6 years, we have 75,000 startups, so more than 100 unicorns. And CSIR has a major role, actually, to promote that startup movement. But unfortunately, the mindset is not changed, not even in the society, not even those who have a stake. You still have that government job mindset somewhere. So that is taking time to get out of our being. Now, one of your success stories from the CSIR itself is that aroma mission. And I tell you, when we started off this, we didn't have the land to do the experiment. I think, who was there? Ram Vishwakarma was there. So there was this boy having sizable land, agricultural land, cultivating maize. And there was some part of it left over, I think about half a hectare. So these guys persuaded him to spare this because it was not being used. And when they cultivated the lavender thing and the family started making lakhs out of it, they surrendered the rest of the land also. The point is that, as they say, the eyes see what the mind knows. The mind is yet to be educated. And I think one of the best opportunities for the science and technology to get promoted, to get a fillip in the present times is that it has a huge linkage with our livelihood. And livelihood not of a very ordinary nature, but lucrative livelihood. Now, even when we spoke of the hydrogen bus or hydrogen-driven vehicles that we were now visiting, tomorrow it will become a cost-effective means. Tomorrow maybe the regulation may decide that you are not allowed to use the conventional fuel, and then you will have takers. So it will become a huge industry. That's why I told Dr. Ashish, I said, start making noise now itself. Otherwise tomorrow they'll say, ke le land ne nikal li bus. Because the manufacturer gets the credit, not the scientist behind. It's just like when you watch a movie, you say, Shah Rukh Khan ne bada अच्छा काम किया. करवाया किसने वो नहीं पता. ना डायरेक्टर का नाम पता, ना स्टंटमैन का पता. So even if you are stuntman, let us at least learn that skill of telling the world. And that is not only for publicity, that's also because you can educate the stakeholders much better than what a marketeer can do. So that also brings me to the point that we have, in fact, of late I've been telling wherever I go around that since we are into a phase of integrated research and integrated working, so the linkage of startups with research, academia and industry. Unfortunately, some of this last part of the industry remains little, not very seriously taken, also because we, like good scientists, have been trained to concentrate our work as we are not very familiar with the market dynamics. But I think what is important and what we are going to face the issue is of sustainable startups. The startup movement has picked up in a very big way in the last 6 years. But how many would be able to sustain? But I'm sure we have the capacity to do that if we link it with industry right from day one and make industry equal stakeholders. Not only stakeholders as far as our R&D is concerned, also stakeholders in the terms of investment. Only recently, I'm glad that TDB, the Technology Development Board, handed out a project. So it came to my notice. I said, ask the industry to pay equal amount as you are paying, so that the startup who works on that project will later on be owned by the industry, the concerned industrial house. Because when it pinches the pocket, वो कहेगा साहब 100 crore लगाया है, अब कम से कम इससे काम तो लो. So he will hire him, if not for any other reason, at least for the reason that he has spent on the boy. So let that kind of arrangement be there. Not that we are making them members of the board, enhancing their profile, and in return getting nothing. And rather, my views are very radical because I belong to the medical fraternity, where we don't allow the industry go scot-free. We hardly spend even on our conferences. We ask, if they have to hold a session, we ask them to sponsor the session. If they are getting something out of it, because otherwise, how do we sustain our startups? So that is because, and then there was an award for women. We have this, which is being run for the last 25 years. I think again, through the technology board only. So I have asked them to conduct a retrospective study to find out where is that girl who got that award 25 years ago. We fund them, then reward them for the project undertaken and completed. But we don't follow up. So let's find out. Because they were startups in their own way. So the person whom we supported, we invested in 25 years ago, is he or she still into it or has ended up becoming a teacher or a housewife or a civil servant? The smarter of them end up becoming civil servants. The less smart go elsewhere. So that means we would then we'll also have an opportunity to revisit our own approach. So how do we cultivate and sustain? I think that's going to be a big challenge. I don't think I have to talk about hydrogen energy because I usually don't use the talking points because these talking points usually belong to the one who has written it. So I just saw it now. So it's been a good account of hydrogen energy, which will be quite educative for me. But I don't think this learner audience needs to be spoken about that because you are already aware of that. But I am glad that we are in tune with the government's priorities, the Prime Minister's priorities, and inspired by the hydrogen mission, we are among the first to have made a headway. And of course, yesterday the visit to Venture Center was, as I tweeted, it was a mutually learning experience. So I go there also to educate myself because there's much more to learn from the youngsters than from your peers sometimes. And one thing which, while we were going around, the director told me that you had 50% women co-founders, and that's what you said, and I immediately took a note of this, and 18% women-led startups. So that prompted me to think that we should now try to tell the society that from the level of women participation, we have actually graduated to the level of women leadership in every stream of life. I think you could clap for that. At least the woman sitting there. No, I am humbly on behalf of the other gender accepting your leadership. So you should at least clap, the woman folks sitting over here. Because we always keep insisting more and more women participation, encourage women into it, So that's very patronizing. That means somehow we have not yet reconciled that we are actually being led by them in many of the projects. And I think Gaganyaan is also one of those examples in space. We have some of the most active workers there from the women folk. And here, of course, Dr. Ashish is giving you documentation, 18% women-led, and 50%, of course, founders, co-founders. So put together means 65%. So the other 35% have to participate. So 65% of it. And that's, so I think that barrier is also over. There's a change in demography, there's change in the gender, and also because what I was saying when we were climbing down the stairs is the society doesn't discuss much about our projects, the scientific projects. The media is not interested because they'll be more interested about which politician abused whom and what was the retort abuse in return. So because that doesn't sell, we are actually an evolving society. We are just about 75 years old. So even the reader is not ready to accept too much of scientific news. But what we have to actually understand is that partly it's also happened because soon after independence, for the first 2-3 decades, there was not much of emphasis, not much of prioritization, and not much of interest also in the scientific streams. And even as a career, science was not a preferred area. That's something that we have to accept. So at least till my generation, you would first try for an engineering course, then for a medical course, then for some UGC kind of a job which could be more lucrative. And those who didn't, they came down to do PhDs and ended up in labs, or sometimes also in the as teachers. But it's now changed over the last quarter of a century. And that is a sea change which is society is to be told about. The society has learned. The kind of startups that we are getting now are among the best. And they are happening there by choice. Actually, the social mindset is conditioned by the 50s and the 60s, when this was by exclusion. Science was taken up by exclusion. When you didn't fit in anywhere else, you took up this. I'm not talking of everybody, but many of us. Not everybody, of course, because then we won't have Homi Baba and we won't have Sardesai. But what I'm saying is, Sarabhai, sorry, now it's the other way. It is becoming a preferred. We did a small survey 2 years back in Delhi. And in class 12 level, biotechnology was ranking somewhere at level 4 or 5, which was an eye-opener for us also. When the biotechnology newly started in this country, people would ask, what is it? Is it biology or technology? Is it engineering or medicine? So this was, now it's because, and that ranking has gone up in that survey of class 12, because class 12 is considered to be the takeoff, launching stage for the adolescent or for the teenage, because they are finding a career in this. So now this is becoming a lucrative career. So we have to actually put it across in this manner. This is no longer only a research area, it's also paying you dividends to sustain your livelihood, to raise your family. So if that is possible, then of course we'll also have sustainable startups, and that's why I'm saying we could have more of the industry involvement. Now we went for that pilot project, this is again going to be a huge industry in the times to come, with the emphasis being on elimination of the single-use plastic, etc. So these are all areas which are not only going to remain confined only to the laboratory, and you will not have to again and again lab to land, lab to what all those clinic to bed, lab to bed, or all those things, slogans were coined because it was not happening. Now it will automatically go to the land, because now the agri-tech startups is one of the areas which is not sufficiently emphasized in this country, because somehow in the mindset is gone into IT. But agriculture is a hugely unexplored potential in India. And agri-tech startup is not the farmer of the your times. He uses drone. He doesn't even go to the farm. He doesn't have to do that. He tests the soil health card. He determines what crop to sow, and the drone goes there, does the irrigation, does the pesticide, does the insecticide also. So that kind of, and more youngsters who are realizing this. I have examples of at least 4 youngsters who gave up their lucrative jobs in the corporate sector in Bangalore and came over to take up agri-tech. 2 of them have taken to this lavender thing. There's another group of 3, 2 B.Tech and 1 MBA. All the 3 were working in Bangalore, and they were sharing same apartment. They have taken to dairy sector. So that's again. So when we talk of livelihood and jobs and the economy and the bioeconomy, we were talking of biotechnology. Now we are aiming at 30 billion. So bioeconomy is going to be one of the main pillars of the economy of India when we talk of next 25 years, the Amrit Kal. So what are the sources for Amrit Kal? The sources would come from the areas which have not been explored so far. And therefore, I think is the opportunity for all of us to make best use of these times, and also to contribute, as the Honorable Prime Minister is saying, in the making of the next 25 years. And for the making of next 25 years, we'll also have to focus on those who are in their 30s, so that 25 years hence when India turns 100, they would have the opportunity to have contributed. Because many of us over there may or may not be around. I'm not saying for others, because that's not a very polite remark. But you see, the market nowadays, every kind of color is available. So you can choose to look gray, white, black, anything, but don't get deceptive by that. But the matter of fact is that the productive 25 years, energetic 25 years belong to the age group of 30. So we have to invest in that. And also to keep thinking and keep evolving the unexplored sources, which as I said, not only agriculture, even in ocean, that's not part of the CSIR, but as a scientist, as I said, we have to have an integrated approach. So soon the CSIR will have a role to play, a huge role to play in oceanography also, though we already have an institute there. Because we have a 7,500 kilometer long coastal line. It was never explored. And our economy, if it reaches the world pedestal, it is going to be on the basis of that. The other day I was telling a group of Australian scientists, I said, you have a country called Australia, you have a continent called Australia, you have an island called Australia, but your ocean is not known Australian Ocean. But I belong to a country where the country is known by ocean, Indian Ocean. Then I also gave him a cultural reason for that. I said, हो सकता है हमारे पूर्वजों को हमसे ज़्यादा अनुमान हो कि इसके अंदर क्या बसता है. आने वाले समय के सारे हीरे जवाहरात उसी में है. And soon then I was in a lighter way telling my own colleagues, you have a Department of Mining and Ministry of Mining which checks the illegal mining. You will soon have to have coastal guards going deep into the sea to check illegal mining. The entire economy is going to, and that's a huge, huge lucrative day. So the mindset change which is happening, because India is a heterogeneous country, and even the evolution is not equally paced. It's happening faster in certain states. The other day we were in Chennai when the Samudrayaan was launched. The next day I received a group of Telugu boys. They had read in the newspaper that morning. They said, sir, we saw that some kind of a Samudrayaan mission is being launched to explore the minerals beneath. Of course, not only minerals, also the living and non-living resources, but they were more concerned with the minerals. So can we become party to that in a PPP model? I said, hold on, we just started. So there, the pace is a little faster because they're already into it. In some of the other states, which are a little towards the north, the mindset takes a little longer. But it will happen because of the reasons of livelihood and lucrative livelihood. And that is also the call of the next 25 years, as the Prime Minister has been reiterating. It's been a wonderful visit over here. And it was quite enthusiastic going around with the startups. I hope to be back again and again. In fact, Pune is one of the places which one would always like to visit as often as possible. But our programs are determined by the requirements, so it doesn't happen very often. But thank you very much. On a Sunday, you have come in such a huge number, which of course is very kind of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your enlightening words and motivation to the institution. I will request Honorable Director, sir, to please present the mementos on behalf of all of us, the entire CSIR family. CSIR family की तरफ से स्मृति चिन्ह के रूप में CSIR-NCL का एक चित्र माननीय निदेशक महोदय प्रदान करेंगे, और साथ ही हमारे पूर्व निदेशक डॉक्टर L.K. दोराईस्वामी की लिखी पुस्तक एक्सीलेंस इन ओवरलैपिंग कल्चर, द बिग हिस्ट्री ऑफ CSIR, India's National Chemical Laboratory, as a token of memento. मैं आग्रह करूंगा निदेशक महोदय से कि आदरणीय डॉक्टर जितेंद्र सिंह सर को CSIR-NCL द्वारा PPE किट के रिसाइकल करके बने हुए फ्लावर पॉट को भी प्रदान करें स्मृति चिन्ह के रूप में। सर, CSIR-NCL आपकी और राष्ट्र की उम्मीदों पर पुनः एक बार खड़ा उतरेगा निश्चित रूप से। इस कार्यक्रम में उपस्थित सभी लोगों का हार्दिक धन्यवाद। CSIR-NCL परिवार, CSIR यूरोडिप और वेंचर सेंटर के सभी स्टाफ, स्टूडेंट्स, रिसर्चर्स, छात्र, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक और प्रिंट मीडिया, संस्थान के सभी डिपार्टमेंट्स के सभी वैज्ञानिक, ESU, प्रशासन, वित्त लेखा और अन्य सभी डिपार्टमेंट और HLS, सभी लोग जिन्होंने डायरेक्टली या इनडायरेक्टली इस कार्यक्रम को सफल बनाने में भूमिका निभाई है, उन सबको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। थैंक यू सो मच। एक बार फिर अपने तालियों की ध्वनि से हम धन्यवाद करते हैं माननीय मंत्री महोदय का। थैंक यू सर। आप सब पीछे के फर्स्ट फ्लोर के एग्जिट से ही निकलेंगे कृपया, धीरे धीरे। क्या हम सब खड़े होके मंत्री महोदय का धन्यवाद कर सकते हैं? Our minister would like to interact with a few young students and young faculty members here. So, whoever is willing, please, sir is here.
Can I get the younger faculty also who we have recently hired? I can see Varun here. I don't know if Ramesh and Nagaraju are here. Maybe they can also. Please come.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
हो जाएगा. Maybe have.
Hello.
No, the director said we could go for the media interaction. I said more than that is more enriching to interact with those who are there around rather than having an interaction with the media. So I hope that's right. because usually I'm not that kind of media savvy, so I think it's more that we learn from each other.
So, sir, come, Varun. He is one of our young faculty members who has been hired, Varun Nagpur. He is a battery expert and makes materials that are used in new generation batteries.
Want to say something?
I would like to thank the minister to give me an opportunity to speak here. It's sort of extempore, so please don't mind if I'm not fluid about what I'm going to say here. But I might be new to most of you because as I was introduced as a young faculty, I just started like 3 months back. To give you a brief background, I did my PhD in Drexel University in USA. And then while I was actually on a holiday to renew my visa, because I planned to continue to work there, do my job over there, I got a chance to meet with a few of the scientists here, especially Dr. Lele. And his vision was really inspiring, and he told me all the great work that goes on in NCL. And that's when I decided that I really don't want to pursue getting my H-1B visa and all the green card stuff. I would like to contribute to whatever the green energy revolution in India in any way possible. Of course, I don't... Of course, I don't claim to be the best expert here, but in any way, we have great scientists who are already doing it. I wouldn't say I'm...
You know of another noted scientist who came for a holiday and stayed back?
I guess there are many. I think even Dr. Lele
The most notable was Dr. Homi Baba.
Yeah.
I know many into this. I don't know how many under this roof know. Actually, he had a very desirable job abroad. He came on a holiday. Suddenly the World War broke out. And those days, most of the traveling was done by ship. So all the ships were suspended. And the suspension of the ships was one of the reasons for the famine that happened in Bengal. You know, because I've been a teacher for more than a quarter of a century, so if you trigger me, then I go on and all whole day. So there was food shortage, and a famine happened in Bengal, which was followed by epidemics, breakout of cholera, and the first ever oral rehydration solution, ORS, which is now, you know, packeted as electrolytes, etc., was born in Bangladesh, in the then Bengal. It was known as Dhaka mixture. They would have tub full of water, put some soda, some salt, and boiled water and feed it to because antimicrobials were not known at that time. The first penicillin antibiotic came in 1948-49, penicillin, the queen of drugs, which was known. So coming back to Homi Baba, he came here, the war broke out, he couldn't go back. Meanwhile, soon after the war was over, India started preparing for independence. Because the war was over by 1944-45. By that time, it was clear that the British were going to hand over independence to India. So the preparations had started already. So somebody brought him in touch with the government circles, and then he found interest. He got so passionate and set up that Bhava Center there, which actually even the plantation and the landscape was done by him. So he's one famous example of the holiday having played, cheated him.
Yeah, that would be great. Even if I'm lucky to contribute a tenth of what Dr. Bhaba did, I think me coming back would be a good choice option for me. So that's great. Good. So I would like to thank, of course, CSIR, Dr. Lily, and the Department of Science and Technology for all the support I've gotten so far, and hopefully in the future that will be continued. Thank you.
I think all the avenues which were earlier not available in India are equally as much available in every stream of science. So there's no reason actually not to stay back. So you could motivate others as well. And so you should congratulate Dr. Ashish for having motivated you.
So we have a young group of students who have created an informal group. They call it Sciology. And I'm wondering whether any of the leaders of Sciology are around and if they wish to ask anything to the minister or express yourself. While you find out, may I also request some of the young, maybe Anu or Sarika want to ask anything or make a comment?
Hello.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Dr. Lele, for giving me this opportunity, and also the minister for asking for an interaction with scientists, because this is quite rare, I think. I'm also happy that I've been put in the category of the young scientist, because I don't consider myself one. But definitely, I think your speech was very enlightening, because it talked about a lot of facts and a lot of interesting projects that the government wants to do. Generally, we scientists try to keep ourselves away from whatever the government does. And I think this is a good introduction, and probably we will work towards creating some good policies, some more interaction with the government. I think it's really nice.
No, I think, you completely, thank you. You said, made quite a few significant points, more than once. Now, beginning from you looking young, I think now you have the evidence that the minister said that on the dais. So you go back with this evidence. Now, but the other part of it is,
trust that evidence,
soon
though?
we have actually entered into an age of integration. So there is no option. When you're saying, no, as far as government, and even the demarcation between the private and the public sector is also thinning away. the era of silos is over and over for all times to come. And this is something we have to now understand. The earlier we do, we are still not able to understand. Even in COVID times, we were having, COVID became very favorite subject because you could easily publish a paper on COVID. It was publishable. At the same time, you would easily get a grant in the name of COVID. So I found every room there was a COVID project. So when I came in, I said, stop all, we'll have only theme-based projects. It's not that each department should have a project. And then the theme would determine who all have to get integrated. Maybe even the private players, the public players, the scientists, the government, the industry, right from the beginning. And for a wholesome outcome, I think that is going to be an essential feature in our work culture in the years to come. It's no longer an option, whether I opt or not. It has to be like that if you have to reach, a reasonable outcome. So you made a relevant point.
And I think outreach was also something that you talked about.
Absolutely, and I think you have a cue for the my genre also. The outreach has to be more even from the political, from the polity as well. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you.
Please introduce yourself and ask.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving me this opportunity. I'm Bhagya from OCD department. So here I have not a question, but a fair ask that, sir, there are other countries like Denmark, and so they are very poor countries. They change their countries like a very rich countries now because they invest in education. They invest in health because educated mind didn't have health. They will not provide a good contribution to their country and they are unable to serve. So my ask here is, sir, can we put more effort in our R&D, in our research, in our education, like for science and for all other streams also? Because India is flourishing with all diversity, the culture, and of course, the great science has done in India. So for this, I wanted to ask, like, what is government take will be there? Because we also, like Prime Minister Narendra Modi always introduced India as a great country. So for becoming this, for coming his dream, so what is the government next footsteps to become India like this?
Yeah, I think at least as now you mentioned the Prime Minister. Prime Minister has very consciously given a boost both to science as well as education. The new education policy is also now coming. But what you were referring to, the comparison with Denmark and other countries, is not totally fair. You know why? Because there is something called multifactorial outcome. So we are an evolving society. Now, why education not given priority here? Why health not given priority here also has got to do with our social values and social priorities. Health was never a social priority in the Indian society. Half the people would not even consult a doctor if they fell sick. Half of them put it to पिछले जन्म का कर्म. अगर ठीक हो गए तो अच्छा कर्म, नहीं किए तो कर्मों की सजा मिल गई. There was an earthquake in Gujarat, the famous Bhojka. जब हुआ भूकंप, so NGOs from all over the world, including Denmark and all, started coming in to help the victims, to counsel the survivors. Because suddenly, in a family, out of 5 people, 4 were dead. And then when they came back, we happened to come across some of them. So we asked them, I said, what is that you have learned from your experience? He said, no, we are going back educated. क्योंकि किसी घर में जाते थे बोलते देखिए 4 चले गए, आप बचे हैं, अब आपने अपना आप संभालना, हम आपके लिए ये व्यवस्था करेंगे, इस तरह से करेंगे, किसी को समझाने लगे, किसी बेटी को, तो वो आगे से जवाब देती कि नहीं साहब आपने क्या करना, ये तो हमारे पापों का फल था, आपका कोई कसूर नहीं. So they would send them. So we have been a society which is groomed in a different mold. Secondly, we had not achieved the kind of saturation points which Denmark and the other countries. We are a struggling society. We are also learning to survive. So therefore, we have to, it will take us 2 generations. But there's a difference now in the last 30, 40 years. And that also applies to our education system. The mismatch, education what for? The first question is, why do you need education? It's a basic question. You said education is important. Now I ask why you need education. The instant if you do a survey, सब education मिल जाएगी तो IAS बन जाएंगे, education मिल जाएगी तो नौकरी मिल जाएगी. It's not so in Denmark, not so otherwise. A few years back, I was with the Vice Chancellor of the Cambridge University because he happens to be a medico. He is a teacher of microbiology. He's 80 plus because in Europe, the lawyers and the doctors, they don't retire. They can carry on as long as the faculty, their mental and physical abilities allow them. So whenever he is in India, he somehow tries to send a word to me. So he was there about 4 years back. So he told me, Doc, can I tell you, I must compliment the students from India. If I didn't have them, my PhDs would be closed. कितना बड़ा योगदान है? है? नहीं है. I tell you क्यों नहीं है. When he went out, there was another doctor sitting with me. I said, what did this old man say? Was it a compliment? Otherwise, वो कहता नहीं, what do you mean? I said, he doesn't know because he's come from a different context. Our children go there to get a PhD as a trophy. A British boy or a girl will get into Cambridge only when he or she has decided that the entire life is now going to be devoted to that stream of work. Either I reach somewhere or I leave a legacy for the others to carry forward. Yahan I have so many examples even from my own contemporaries. I don't want to name some of them famous names even associated with CSIR and the science ministries who did PhD in biotechnology, came back and became managers in computer companies. And win-win situation. The proprietor of the company says कि मैंने manager PhD रख दिया. जब वो सुबह सैर को निकलता है तो कहेगा आपको पता है मैंने मैनेजर कैम्ब्रिज का PhD रख दिया. और सैर करने वाला ये नहीं पूछता कि PhD किस सब्जेक्ट की है. और वो भी he is also happy that he is getting a fat pay packet. So the priority is because we, as I said, a surviving nation, we have a different kind of priority. So that linkage of the degree per se with our aptitude is not, now I think with the new education policy that is also going to be addressed. So there is a lot of difference. In fact, because as I said, it's a multifactorial difference. It's not only, and health, in fact, we must thank COVID and also Prime Minister Modi because COVID came as an adversity, but every adversity is accompanied with virtue. For the first time in India, there is awareness about preventive health. कभी कोई प्रिवेंटिव टीका लगाता है क्या? यहाँ बीमार होकर इलाज नहीं करवाता तो बीमारी रोकने का कौन करेगा? For the first time people, that scare, scare is a very great unifying factor and a motivating factor. The best motivating factor is scare. अब डरा दो भाई प्लास्टिक पिया तो आपके बच्चा बीमार हो जाएगा. See, the mother then starts moving around motivating everybody about no use plastic because she is scared. इसी तरह से अब scare आया तो सभी कह रहे थे 18 बरस वालों को भी लगाओ, 10 वालों को भी लगाओ. So that is the point. We are yet evolving. So evolution happens as a whole at different levels. But I agree with you. That's an ideal state. But but there's a lot of difference being made in the last 40, 50 years. I mean, this was entirely a different scenario when India gained independence.
Next, you introduce yourself.
Hello, sir.
Come ahead, introduce yourself and ask.
Hello, sir. My name is Meenal Bhalerao. I am a PhD student in CSIR-National Chemical Laboratory. So actually, I was going to ask question. As you mentioned before that, there are many women who are involved in the starting of the startups. Okay, so there are few women issues. I don't know that this is the right platform to talk about it, but as I've got the opportunity, I'll like to mention it to you. So recently we came across that there are many CSIR institutes which don't have a proper sanitary pad disposable machines. So what Ministry of Science and Technology is doing for the betterment of research, female researchers to make their lives safe and better at the research institutes?
No, yeah, but of course. No, she's talking about the facility. I think Now, of course, that is an issue. I think that also has a bearing on the fact that there were lesser female researchers in the past. So now, as the number of females has been increasing, that will be taken care of, and it will be. In fact, a few years back, I went to one of the leading medical institutes, and I found that there was no decent toilet for female. So again, it was Prime Minister Modi who spoke about female toilets on the Red Fort. So, and because that is again a scientific announcement, people take it as otherwise, because it has a lot to do with the female morbidity and all kinds of urinary infections, etc., etc. So I said at least arrange for a toilet, because what about the medicos who are going to be on the night shift? But I think there's increasing awareness about it now, and it's being taken care of. And yeah, you wanted to add?
So Meenal, we know that there is a startup next doors to us which is looking at this problem and has an inventive solution for it. And we are also trying to bring that solution, deploy it in hostels and in the laboratory. It has taken us a little time to make it happen, but at least there is a solution in place next doors which is very much deployable. The director of Venture Center is also right here. And I think it's...
I think what this earlier girl said, as I said, it's evolving. We are an evolving society. Now, 70 years back, when India gained independence, this audience would have been full of males. I can bet. If you have pictures of 1950 or 1951,
We have some old pictures.
some old pictures, just find out, and just out of my curiosity, I'm sure the audience would not have a single female. Maybe one odd for some reason, other reason, not per se working here. So the priorities also were determined like that. And because we were a struggling society, toilet was not a huge priority. To earn the evening meal was more important. So once Khushwant Singh, he used to write humor column, he wrote about 30 years back, 40 years, he said, India, one advantage. The Indian males can ease themselves wherever they find a convenient wall. So every wall is a toilet. And females are usually housewives, so don't need that facility. So India has gone through that, you know. There's been a huge transition now. Okay, we finish?
Thank you, sir.
We can call it. Yeah.
He wants to say something. Okay.
Yeah, introduce yourself and ask.
Hello, sir. Myself Dr. Ramesh Samanto. I am from Organic Chemistry Division as a scientist. So thank you very much for the inspirational talk. And it's my first time I'm hearing this, and I'm very much impressed, and I will try my best to follow this. Thank you very much.
If I knew you had to compliment me, I would have never stopped you. I would ask you to come first. Thank you.
No, because
Thank you.
it's really, I feel honored to be present and listen you in front from in class. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.